Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com, the premier dealership for Vespa scooters here in San Diego. And if you're looking for products, parts, and accessories for your vintage Vespa or modern Vespa or Piaggio scooter, check us out on the web, ScooterWest.com. So here I have the 2021 Piaggio BV350 Touring. And probably everybody's asking, is there that much difference between this and the prior models? For the most part, no, but it's a new appearance package that is a $100 premium over the prior year BV350 in 2020. Retail price on this is $66.99, and it's priced less than the Vespa GTS 300 HPE. It's definitely a better commuter tool than any of the Vespa products in my personal opinion. You know, using it in San Diego where there's highways, freeways, and other high-speed roads, this is going to be a much better tool over the Vespa. As much as I love the Vespas, when it comes down to what I ride on a day-to-day basis, just the BV350. I love motorcycles. There's a lot of stuff I like better, but if you just want an all-in-one tool to just kind of suit all your needs, I don't think there's anything that's better than the BV350. So I'll start the video out with somebody who's experienced with the BV350. So you may be asking, what's the difference between a 2020 model and the 2021? First of all, mechanically, it's 100% identical. Same wheel size, same brakes, same engine as the prior models. All the way it's back is 2013, pretty much the same motor. They made small improvements to make the scooter more reliable. In 2015, for the US market, they gained the traction control and the ABS system. 2017, they added the remote clicker along with a USB charging jack in place of the standard 12-volt charging port inside the glove box. But that's pretty much it mechanically. Not much change over all the years. I would just stay away from the 2013, 2014 BV350. They were the first year models of the scooter, but today we're talking about the 2021. So what do you get in the touring package? We're really not that much more, but for $100 more, I think it's a great, you get the great color, the Grigio Materia, which is like their non-metallic gray finish. You have the updated wheel style, which is the gloss black wheel, same cast wheels, all the prior BV350s, but you got that diamond finished machined edge treatment for the wheels. The seat has changed ever so slightly. Same seating posture as the prior model. It's kind of got this Naugahyde style satin finish on the center panel, and then you got the standard kind of textured vinyl on the side panels here with the gray stitching. And one hidden feature that's included with the BV350 Touring is the Piaggio MIA Bluetooth connectivity module. Normally that was an accessory that very few people bought for the BV350. It's been possible to add one to a BV350 for the last several years. Not a very popular option, but what it allows you to do is connect your smartphone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, to the scooter. You're able to get extra instrumentation, such as your average miles per gallon, average speed. You get a bunch of just glorified fancy trip odometer functions and some basic troubleshooting, you know, with the check engine light. And that's about it. It's not really that special. I think it's more of a pain to connect to it and use it than it is worth having there. That's my own opinion. I know some people probably like it. I would recommend having something like a RAM mount to put your smartphone on the handlebars, because the tools are pretty useless unless you have access to your smartphone while you're riding. As for the weight of this scooter, it's definitely heavier than any smaller size scooters. It weighs in over 350 pounds, but under 400 loaded. It's never felt all that heavy to me when comparing it to other scooters in this class. the weight is very low slung on the scooter. All the motor weight is down low. You got the gas tank is down low. So most of the weight is very low weight. And just having a weight number isn't really how accurate on how the scooter feels or motorcycle feels. A top heavy motorcycle is going to be very difficult to handle. You know, having the weight up high never is a good thing on anything with two wheels. So not too bad. The handle, the seating height is about 31 inches. I'm about 5'8", 5'7", somewhere in there. 5'9", I don't remember what I am, but easily flat foot the scooter, no problem with the stock seat. This is possible to shave some foam out of the stock seat. So if you're under 5'5", you may find the scooter's a little bit on the tall side if you're under that size. It has fold-out pegs for your passenger. So the American market BV350 has a unique fuel tank. It's got this access door, and it opens right up. Holds 3 gallons. They may say 3.2, but I know it was for a fact it's a 3-gallon tank. Scooter gets about 65 miles a gallon, just with average style riding. So you're pretty much, you can have up to 150 miles range with this kind of scooter on an average fill up. Even with the highest speed riding, I've always gotten over 100 miles per tank full. Motor wise, it's got a 330 cc liquid cooled 4-valve engine. It's an automatic transmission, just like most other scooters, which is just a variable speed drive belt. But this has got a unique clutch system. It's a wet bath clutch, a multi-plate wet bath clutch, just like a motorcycle clutch. They're pretty quick and grabby off the line. They made some subtle improvements to the clutch, I think, over the years, so it's a little bit smoother on these newer models. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's me riding a brand new scooter versus my older BV350, but I think it works great. It's a different setup than most other scooters, and it's proven to be very reliable as long as you don't abuse it. Service intervals on the scooter, it's pretty much every 6,000 miles you need to do an oil change, inspect the air filter, spark plug. Every 12,000 miles, you're going to need to go in there and replace that drive belt. And every 24,000 miles, you're going to need to do a major service, including a valve inspection and adjustment. So the scooter is equipped with nice looking LED running lights. Those are not the turn signals in the US market version of this. Turn signals are up high. It's got ABS braking system. That's a great safety feature on anything modern. I never know when you need to do a panic stop, and the last thing you want to do is hit the ground in a panic situation. It also has a traction control system called the ASR system, and I found it works pretty good on the BV350. Not as good as a $20,000 touring or adventure motorcycle in my opinion, but it works very good considering the price points. $6,700 for this scooter with traction control. This size motor, it definitely is pretty easy if you get on the gas in a low traction situation, such as when it's raining or there's gravel on the road. It definitely will spin up the tire. Fortunately, if you want to do that or go in the dirt or have to ride home with a flat, it's very easy to turn the system off, unlike some motorcycles that require going through some menus to turn that system off. You do have slightly better acceleration with the system off on dry pavement. That's my experience. But for the most part, I just always leave the traction control system, as my personal use for the scooter is a commuting tool, and my safety is the most important thing when I'm commuting, because that's where the majority of my miles are, and I'm not out there to hot dog or do unsafe activity. Do some lane splitting. Some people think that's unsafe. I do want to get places quick. So all the controls are pretty much unchanged throughout the years. The same mirrors. The visibility is great out of these mirrors. Includes a standard size windscreen. It's enough to kick the wind over your head. You can easily add a larger windscreen or just take the windscreen off altogether, much as how I rock my own BV350 in the summertime. I want the most amount of breeze to stay cool. You got the basic instrumentation. You got a fuel gauge, you You got a speedometer. Unfortunately for the United States, the kilometer scale is on the outside. Not really an issue for me. I can do the conversion pretty quick, but you do have the miles per hour on the inside. Moving on to the right, you got your temperature gauge. Some basic indicators such as a check engine light, low fuel pressure, turn signals, high beam, ABS light. This is an immobilizer light. They do have a coded chip inside the key for extra high security. So pretty much if somebody steals a scooter without the key, they're not going to get anywhere with it. The trip odometer has a couple functions. You got odometer, a clock. Fortunately, this is set to miles. You got a resettable odometer 1, odometer 2, battery voltage. Obviously goes up to about a little higher once you start the scooter. You got your temperature, your ambient temperature. Today's a nice warm day. And back to your odometer. And that's all toggled with this mode switch right at your thumb. Got a basic horn. You got a kill switch, turn signals that you push to cancel. And you pull one of the two brakes or both, hit the start button, and it comes right alive. Fuel injected, there's no chokes, no giving it any gas to start it up. I always just send to start right up. On very, very cold mornings, I found that these are a little bit cold-blooded. I got to idle them for a little while. So with the key, includes a high security key with an electronic immobilizer. There's also a master key that can be used to start the scooter. But there's also a key fob. So 2017 and newer BV350s, you got this little key fob. You push that little button right there and it will actuate the seat. Or you could push the button on the left-hand turn handlebars and it will actuate the seat with an electronic actuator. There is a manual override located in the glove box, but underneath the seat is where you get the majority of the storage. You got your master key. You have an access compartment to the engine. It's a very generous size under-seat bucket. Considering the compact size of the scooter, you got a basic toolkit, and underneath this whole cover is the battery itself. You got an under-seat light that extinguishes when you close up the seat. And they do include an extra lock tumbler that matches to the ignition key. Unfortunately, the newer style factory top case does not use this style tumbler, so it's not useful on the newer style top cases, which is kind of a pitfall of the newer style cases that are available for this. They do have a color match top case that matches both the seat upholstery for the passenger backrest and also the color key of the scooter. Up front, you got a locking glove box. The handlebars lock, if you turn this to the far left, and it also locks up the under-seat storage. You turn it to the 12 o'clock position or the run position, you could push the key in and open up the glove box. The glove box to me is pretty useful. You could fit a phone on either the left or right side. Just keep in mind it does get pretty warm in here because it's behind the radiators. I do like this little pocket here. You can keep change. Say if you go through a toll booth, and I have used it for that purpose, you can quickly open the glove box and grab some change or whatever for a toll if you have to do that sort of thing. And further into the glove box is a USB charging port to keep your phone charged up, or a GoPro, whatever. Just to show you what this little guy is, this is your VIN plate on the frame. I'm not going to pull it off, but if it pulls right off, there's the VIN that's engraved onto the frame. The frame's got like a twin spar steel frame. Unlike the Vespa, it's got a monocoque stamped steel frame. This has got a tubular frame. And I find it's pretty rigid for when it comes to scooter frames. A lot better than anything at a lower price point, definitely. And right here is a bag hook that you'll find comes in pretty handy. Put a grocery bag if you need the extra storage, whether you're going on a long trip or just across town. So it's got a pretty standard halogen headlight. Works fine. Not the best, not the worst. Moving on down to the braking setup. Again, ABS brakes. You got a very large brake rotor. It's more than adequate for general use. On my own personal BV350, I've upgraded the pads to centered brake pads so you get a little bit stronger braking force. But the single disc brake works more than good enough. A very important aspect of this scooter is it runs a 16-inch tire in the front, closer to the size of a typical motorcycle, which generally front tires are 16 inches up to about 21 inches on motorcycles. So you get more of a gyroscopic force going down the road, more contact patch. There's definitely some benefits to having larger tires. There's also some downsides. I'll tell you, a small scooter with 10-inch tires is going to be a ultimate weapon in a very tight, dense urban situation because you're able to make quick turns. When you get a scooter that's longer with larger tires and more weight, it's going to be not quite as quick in the tight situations. On the right side, you got your muffler, you got the engine with the oil dipstick and fill. The rear tire is a 150/70/14 Michelin City Grip tires. Again, similar style wheel to the front with that diamond silver edge and the gloss black powder coating. On the left side, you have your side stand. And I recommend just using the side stand on these larger scooters. Has a safety switch that turns the motor off when you put it on the side stand. But the center stand gives you extra stability, or sometimes they call it a service stand, because at this point you're able to spin the tire. The whole engine is the swing arm on these scooters. They do have basic preload adjustment on the rear shocks. In my experience, this class of scooter, whether it's the Bergman or the Majesty or this scooter, the suspension's average. It's about what you would expect for a scooter at this price point. Not nearly as good as a nice motorcycle, but better than an inexpensive lower-end scooter that's not designed to tackle the freeways at high speed. So in the rear, you have a pair of LED taillights and brake lights. In the European market, these are turn signals, but not here in the United States. But they do add extra functionality of extra brake lights. The brake lights are very bright and visible on the scooter. And you have the pod turn signals. And in my opinion, they're pretty well integrated with the rear fender. And pretty much I've left them alone. Just the front ones, I think that the European integrated leg shield turn signals look better. So let's take it out on the road and I'll let you know how it performs. All right, we're gonna take the 2021 BV350 Touring out on a ride. Let's see how it does. So here's the BV going over some bumps that they show you the traction control. You can kind of hear the miss of the engine, and that's the traction control hitting. And I want to tell you one thing about the BV350 traction control. It works much better than the traction control system found on the Vespa GTS 300. It's still not perfect or comparable to a much higher end motorcycle, but it's, I think, a great safety feature. So on the sweeping turns, you know, pretty much going over 25 miles an hour, I always prefer the BV350 handling on all but the tightest roads when compared to something like the Vespa 300 or many of the BV350's competitions, such as a Bergman 400 or a Majesty 400. So if you're unfamiliar with an automatic transmission in a scooter, right now I'm just coasting down this hill. The clutch is engaged, and if you go slow enough, such as under 15 miles an hour, the clutch will fully disengage, and now it's coasting as if it was in neutral. Very different. And if I give it a gas, which sometimes can be a little bit of a dangerous situation because it may tug,
you can hear the tire just screech a little bit because the clutch re-engaged. So pretty much, if you're coasting with no throttle on the scooter, right about 10 or 15 miles an hour, it disengages. And when you come to a stop, it's essentially a neutral. So, you know, right when you get on the gas, the clutch engages smoothly and the scooter takes off. And I found the wet clutch works very good on these BV350s. They do not like abuse, such as holding the brakes and burning the clutch out. Very expensive clutch to repair. But overall, I've never had any problems in all the miles of riding a BV350 with the clutch. And I can tell you they have made some subtle improvements to the clutch over the years. I don't know what year is where the clutch is a little bit smoother, but it's on any of the newer ones, they engage very smoothly. Sometimes 2013, 2014, they can be a little rougher on engagement. Just a real subtle notice. I don't know if something's different. Maybe I've been riding older BVs and just noticed the wear of the older clutches. So if you haven't been on a California highway, here you go. Pretty much you get in the left lane, people do about 80 miles an hour. And this BV is pretty much indicating 90, 95 miles an hour. Pretty much doing about 5 miles an hour slower than what's indicated, but pretty much fast enough for California highways. This is what I love about the BV over something like a Vespa 300 or any of the other maxi scooters that have the smaller tires, is they take the sweeping turns much better. And this is a small grade here, pulls up the hills just fine. So let's see how this thing accelerates. So there you go, about 0 to 60, about 5 seconds. And about 12 seconds, you're up to about 75, 80.
So if you're considering to buy a BV350, feel free to watch some of my other videos covering my own personal BV350. I've ridden a lot of scooters and motorcycles over the years, and it just kind of is turned into my go-to scooter nowadays. Kind of does everything pretty good. It's kind of the jack of all trades, just like, you know, a Leatherman. You know, it's not going to be the best screwdriver or the best knife, but you can hop on the highway, go across town, commute on it. You can go long distance on it. I've gone as far as Lake Tahoe, which is about 600 miles from here. So you can do quite a bit. It's a very versatile scooter, in my opinion. Price point is great, especially when compared to the older generation models from both Suzuki and Yamaha, pretty much the Majesty and the Bergman. Those are pretty old generation scooters at this point, and not necessarily my style. They're physically larger scooters that handle not nearly as good as the BV350. So serviceability on these scooters, from a do-it-yourself point, I would just call it average. You do need special tools to change out that drive belt. Fortunately, it does have a drive belt that goes 12,000 miles between change intervals. Oil change intervals are 6,000 miles. I think it's a little bit better than many other scooters in this class if you're going to use it for long distance touring and just general use. The tires last much longer than any other scooter that uses a smaller size tire. I've seen front tires go as far as 20,000 miles, and I've seen rear tires go as far as 10,000 miles. Generally, it completely depends on how you ride the scooter and how you keep the tires inflated. But you get quite a long service life, especially when compared to a small scooter with 10-inch tires. So the downsides to the scooter, just from the standard average person, you're going to find that this is a heavier scooter than anything else. It's going to be a lighter weight than a heavyweight motorcycle, of course. So it still is much easier to use in a motorcycle. You got the automatic transmission, which makes it very versatile and easy to use, and power on demand with just a flick of the wrist. The downsides from an experienced rider standpoint, I wish that the suspension and the braking was a notch better. There are improvements to do for both the braking and the suspension via aftermarket parts, but it still isn't going to bring it to the level of a much more expensive motorcycle. So there's my review of the 2021 BV350 Touring. 0 to 60 on flat level ground with some of my weights, around 5 seconds. Pretty quick, but not as quick as a fast motorcycle or a fast car. Braking's more than adequate. I don't know the exact feet, for standard stopping. Miles per gallon on this. Of course, it's going to range greatly. I would say anywhere from 55 to 75 miles per gallon is achievable with this scooter. 3-gallon capacity on the tank, so you can do the math there. Comfort level, I know some people complain about the seat. I'm pretty much used to it. I ride a bicycle all the time and do a lot of other stuff that causes me to have much great pain and suffering. I think the seat's great. It works fine for me, but some people do have some opposition to the seat. I'd recommend, sitting on the scooter, feeling it out before you buy something like this. A Vespa GTS 300's got a wonderful seat that you can move back and forth. I think that's a great thing, while this seat kind of locks you in. And of course, the positive things, it's just the most versatile scooter out there, period. And that's my opinion on it. It's fast. It does a little bit of everything, no problem. You could lane split it through tight situations. It's easy to ride, has storage, and so on. And that's why I choose this scooter. So there you have it. Of course, from the advocate of the scooter, Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and scooterwest.com. It's the first time you see this channel. Feel free to subscribe and search through our whole database of videos, mostly about Vespas, but many about Piaggios. And I also have some videos on touring on Vespas and scooters in general. Thanks for watching. Till next time, stay safe.